No boat building video is complete without a picture of the sailing ship. This is the USS Constitution, a frigate, and still a commissioned ship in the United States Navy. Doing some standing rigging, starting to work on that. We've gotten a bunch of things in the mail at the advice of Jim Reineck. And so we've got these terminal fork ends, and these then fit on the mast cone. So there's forestay and then side shrouds. And then the wire is 1/8 inch, 304 stainless, and it's the 1x19 strand. Now we got a crimping tool from Harbor Freight, and I just did my first crimp. This is made by Pittsburgh, and pretty cool. You can get an awful lot of pressure on this thing. So I did my first swage with this one terminal end, and just got to make sure you get the wire up in there, but it's pretty easy with this one because you can see down in the hole in here and make sure your wire comes all the way through. My understanding is that one good swage probably would be enough, but I put in 2, so that's not coming out of there. Not coming out of there. I do know that the Haven plan calls for 3/16 wire on the running rigging. I'm sorry, standing rigging. And after talking to Jim Reineck at Reineck and Sons, he said that a lot of the H12s and most that he's ever seen use the 1/8, and it should be plenty strong. And when we go to put the rig up and get these attached to the chain plates and then the top of the mast, it does not call for there to be a lot of tension in the rig. It's supposed to be taut but not tight. So anyway, this is interesting work. I did a little Pythagorean theorem to determine how long my wires need to be, and I'll cut them off long to start with. I got 100 feet of this wire cable, so we should have plenty. So I'm just going to double check these measurements before I go cutting a wire, and I actually have the wire just clamped to the bottom of the mast here. Let's see if we can see that right there. And let's just measure. So all the way up there is 16'4", but obviously we've got the turnbuckles that we'll be swaging into, and certainly, you know, the deck is probably about here, probably about 25 inches off of the mast step, so that's going to be wildly more than enough. So if I cut it off the full length of the mast, we should be good. Okay, well, so since we know that the first rule of boat building is measure twice, cut once, I have refigured using a Pythagorean theorem how long the shrouds should be. And so what I did is I measured the length of the mast down to deck level from the mast to the bow, where the 4 stay is, or the chain plate is on the bow, and then up is what we're looking for, because this will be the shroud. So it's just really basically A squared plus B squared equals C squared. Okay, and so those numbers are your 24 inches down to the mast step. So you got to subtract that off of the length of the mast. So I came out at 170 inches from deck level all the way to the top. And so then I just multiplied. We got 170 times 170 is, I can't read it backwards, 289, 28,900 plus 60 times 60. Here is 3,600. So our whole thing then was 32,500. Yes, 32,500. Take the square root of that, and it is about 180. Between 180 and 181 inches. So that's what I'm going to do, is I'm going to cut this cable at 181 inches. And that's the longest one, because that's going to the 5 feet length to the front of the boat, to the bow. The side shrouds are not that wide, so I know that that distance won't be quite as long, but just for the ease of doing it, I'm just going to go ahead and cut them off at 181, and I expect to have leftover, because I haven't taken into account the length of the turnbuckles or those terminal fork jaws. So we're going to have plenty of room for error, and we won't have any. All right, let's cut them off. So I've got this first one clamped to the end of the mast, and this is just simply for measuring it. And we want 181 inches. 170, 181. So it's just a little bit over 15 feet. And I'm going to mark the cable because it wants to flop around. And we're going to go at 181. Now you may be looking at this and saying, well gosh, you're clear up to the masthead. Is that going to be long enough? Well, yes, it's going to be long enough, because we got to take that 24 inches off to get to deck level, and I've got this thing pinned all the way down there at the mast step. So I've got extra 24 inches there. So that tells me that it's going to be plenty long enough. Should work out good. All right, cut it off. There's my little black mark. I'll let those cable cutters do it. Looks like I'm getting a hacksaw. Okay, so the cable cutters didn't work. The hacksaw was a disaster. We got a bunch of frayed wire on the end. And it turns out the tool to use is this Dremel. It's got a little metal cutting wheel on it, and works like a charm. Cut it right off nice and smooth. This is the leftover end, but you can see there it's real clean. So clearly the way to do this. Okay, so then here's our clean cut off end. I actually have it attached up there on the mast cone. It's just got a little cotter pin deal that holds it up there. And then here's our turnbuckle. And so we'll swage into here. And so this is this cut wire that goes in there. Now we're not gonna fit this or swage it yet, because we really will not know how long this needs to be rather exactly until we stand the mast up. So at that point, we'll cut it off and crimp these down, and we'll have our rig. So just got to make 2 more like this with the terminal jaw on the top, because I can fit that at the top, and then we'll do the turnbuckles later. We'll do a crimp so we can see how this works. So this is a hydraulic crimping machine. That's off, so the jaw's relaxed, that's on. Then you just pump it like a hydraulic jack. These, I'm using the number 6 dies. It seems to be pretty good for the size of the these forks that we're crimping. So put the wire in there, goes in there like that, put the wire in, and then make sure the wires, you can see it in the terminal end up here, so that you know, it crimps it down on there. And then I'm doing 2 crimps, one up and one toward the end. So let's give it a go. Didn't get cut off completely clean. It don't want to go in there. Let's see if I can bend that just a little bit. There we go. Okay, so I can see the wire. You see, it's all the way through there now. But I can just take it right down there to where it's just barely sticking out of there. And I'm going to go ahead and start, turn it on, go ahead and start cranking this dude up to where I can just get the deal to fit in there so it'll hold it while I try to get it where I want it. So, well, that's too tight. Okay. Okay, so we got that on there. And you see how it's in there? Still making sure my wire's sticking out, and it is. And then you just got to make sure that dude's right in the die, which it is. And we're just going to crank it down. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's about all I'm going to get. 5. And then we'll release that. And we've got our swage. It's crimped in there. And that'd probably be plenty tight just like it is. I'm going to do one more down here on the end of it. This rig doesn't take a ton of tension, so cool stuff, eh? Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.